Hi guys, welcome back. So I get this question a lot. I have a full tree. What should I do? I have a full tree and there's nothing else for me to do. I come from a long line of Mormons, or I have an uncle or an aunt who's really into family history work, so I don't need to do family history work. Or what can I do because they've done so much work? Or I've come from a long line of Mormons and all the work is done. I hate these questions. I hate these excuses. I hate these things. Please stop saying this. I will actually come up with another video on things to do if you believe this. 20 things to do if you believe your tree is full or all the work is done. But for now, we're going to do this video, which will help you if you think your tree is full and there's no work to do. This is called Descendancy. You probably have heard of this. If not, you'll learn today. So what I've done is I've gone here onto Family Search, logged in, and I've climbed up my tree. The right section of your tree you want to look for is a section that's in the late 1800s, where the person's born in the late 1800s, and to probably the early 1700s. If you go past the 1700s, it's going to be harder for this to work out. If you go before the 1800s, you're going to run into a lot of living people, and there won't be that much work to do because you'll be running into living people. So, late 1800s, early 1700s, that's the prime section of your tree you want to look for. So we're here in, let's see, 1760, so late 1700s, early 1800s, a little mid-early, but I'm going to go to this Anne Savage because I want to do her. So I'm going to make her in the middle of my tree. The only way I know how to do this is click on them, their name, and then click tree, and it should bring them to the middle of the tree. Just to double check, you can always click the fan chart, and they should be in the middle of the fan chart. That's the only way that I know to make sure they're in the middle of the tree. But if they're not in the middle of the tree, this is not gonna work out. So up here we showed you there's landscape, there's portrait view, there's fan chart, which we showed you, which is her in the middle. Or there's this little dot with lines coming down that if you run your mouse over the top, it'll say Descendancy. We're going to click on this. Okay, so this is what Descendancy looks like. Kind of big, kind of crazy. Up here is Anne. The next is her husband, a really weird picture of her husband, and then her kids. I'm going to make this easier and more compressed and beautiful looking by coming over here to the show, here on the right hand side. I'm going to click on it and come down to portrait and click on the checkbox here. That way it compresses and we don't see all the picture information, and makes it easier to look at this and do this work. I don't know how people do this in not portrait view. And then we also want to make sure all these check boxes are checked because this is good to have. This will help you out tremendously. So once again, Anne is here at the top. The next one is her husband, and then this is a list of all her kids. This is going to be fun. We're going to go look at her kids, her grandkids, her great-grandkids, and her great-grandkids. 4 generations worth. So you just come up here to generation, and you can click on 3 or 4, depending on how full the tree is. I'm going to click on 4, and we're going to wait, because it's going to load 4 generations. So that didn't take me that long. For you guys, this might take a while. You even might get an error sign that says there's too many people, too many generations, go back a generation. You might come onto other computer problems doing this, so I'm sorry if you do. Please don't blame me. It's just there's a lot of information I'm trying to pull up at one time that the computer's trying to pull up at one time. But if you come up with there's too many generations, just go back a generation to like generation 3 or generation 2. So once again, Anne's up here at the top, her husband's next, and then this is her firstborn son and his wife and his kid and his kid's wife, or they're his wife. So, and husband, kid, wife, grandkid, grandkid's wife. So if you ever get confused, this is generation 1, this is generation 2, this is generation 3, this is generation 4. This is spouse, or sometimes generation 5. So that's, in case you ever wanted to get lost, if you ever got lost on what generation done you're at, these lines will tell you 1, 2, 3, 4. Spouse. So here on Descendancy, you can see here on the right hand side temples. So you can go through and scroll down and find any green temples and hurry and grab those people's temple work, grab those ordinance work that need to be done. If you're Mormon and you can see these temples, you can go through it and go through all these record hints. If you don't know how to connect a source or what these record hints are, I will put a description below to a video that will help you learn how to do that. Or there will be these purple things, which we can work on, which will be research suggestions. And sometimes you'll find a red icon that looks like this. That'll be data problems. So this will show you all the work that you can do on your tree. And yes, it is okay to do these people. They are part of your tree. I get that question a lot, going, but they're not my cousins. They're not my ancestors on my direct line. It's okay. They're still part of your family. They're still, your second, third, fourth cousin, once removed, twice removed. I don't know how that works. Please don't ask me how that works. I don't understand it. So, yeah. But you can still do the temple work for these guys, and you can still help find sources and connect them to these people. Don't get upset that they're not your direct tree or your first cousins and second cousins. Please do this work. It will help out tremendously, and it'll give you something to do. So I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to find a certain somebody. So sometimes you want to find green temples, or find people that you can do temple work for. And you scroll through all this whole entire list, and you're just finding all these blue and yellow temples, and you don't find any green ones. This is what you can do. You can go through and find these, go through each one of these purple icons. And some of them will say no sources attached, or this person was 15 years old and had no spouse and children. These are kind of good ones you want to look for. Mostly you want to look for purple and blue and be like, oh look, there's a purple and a blue. That way we can have a source to help find the possible missing spouse. For this case, on Elizabeth Jones, we'll click on hers, and there's actually 2 sets of possible missing kids. One is for her mother. Last child was born 4 years before mother turned 40, so there's a possibility that 4 or more years. Okay, so there's a possibility that the mother could have had more kids, because 40 is about the general age when you stop having kids. At least back then. I don't know about nowadays. I'm too young to know about those things. Yeah. And then for her, there is a gap of 4 more years between births of 2 kids. So there might be a missing kid for her, or there might be a missing sibling for her. This is good to know. So I'm going to unclick on the purple box and go to the source and click on the source. This is because we're looking for missing children. Census are going to be our best record. If we were up here and we were looking at this one that says missing spouse, marriage records or death records would be your best bet to look for those things. Sometimes obituaries will help on missing spouse or children, but I generally go for census. So this one we might actually be able to find missing children, because we have the same census. Weird. We have some census that we can connect to her. So I'm going to go to show detail. So I changed my mind. I actually wanted to do this William Warren. So I just clicked on the sort, the little blue record hit, and brought us here to his personal page. It's his personal source page is what I would call it. So up here at the top is his information, his birth, his name and birth, more birth information and death information, his parents, and his spouse. Which is actually kind of helpful because now I can go through and be like, oh, there's Elizabeth, oh, there's a Sarah, which is his mother and father, so yep. And I can go through and review all this information and just make sure this is all correct. If I don't find anything that I don't like, find something that I don't find like matches, I can click not a match and explain my reason for why it's not a match. So I could say right there, oh, mother's name is wrong, even though it's not. So we're going to attach a census to him. I'm going to do this census right here, this 1861 census. So I'm just going to click review and attach. Now it's brought up a page to help connect this source to William's personal page. So it's like a connection, how to connect a source page. I don't know what you call this page. But over here on the right hand side is all the information we can find on our family tree. So William Warren's parents. We scroll down, his wife, and we have missing siblings. We're gonna have to work on that later. On the left hand side is what the census has. In this case, well, and the source has. In this case, it's an England and Welsh. Is that Welsh? Yeah, I think it's Welsh. Welsh census from 1861. And all the information the census has. So right here is William. He's the center one, the big and fat center one. And it has William, his birthday and place. And the census is the same. Shocking. Holy crap. Let me give you my little spiel here, in case I didn't do it earlier. Census back in the day were really weird and different. Nowadays, census is where a government comes by and is like, hey, we need to know what's going on in our government, and who's living there, and what's their education status, and where they work, and blah, blah, blah. So we go online and we type all that information in every 10 years, and it's done. Or you mail it in every 10 years, and it's done. Back in the day, they used to have a guy who would go around door to door and be like, hey, who's the head of the household? Who's the wife? Or whatever. How many kids do you have? How many kids are living here? Are they adopted? Are they biological? How many kids have you miscarried or had stillbirth? What is the age of everybody in the household? What is their education and their job status like? What is their race? When did they immigrate here to the United States? So some of this information not be right, because they can be like, okay, your kid is 3 years old, and calculate back to the year. When technically, depending on when they ask that question, that could be a year or two off of the exact date of when their birthday was, their birth year was. Same with immigration. They're trying to remember when they immigrated to the United States or whatever that country is. And they can be off a few years. You know, your brain's not really all that smart sometimes, or great at remembering. So please be a little lenient on dates and places, because we don't always remember that. Or they didn't back then. And it's not like they could whip out a birth certificate and figure that out. Same with spelling of names. The guy who came door to door spelt it however he felt like. He never really asked how you spelt your name. Most of the cases, people didn't know how to spell their name, and so the guy wrote whatever he felt like that knocked on the door, because at least he knew how to spell. Sometimes they even went to the neighbor, and the neighbor was like, oh, I think they have a 4-year-old kid, when the kid was actually 3. And I think their names are this and this and this. Even though it could be a nickname or a middle name that the kid's going by. So please be a little lenient and relaxed when it comes to census. We might come across this in this case of the date and place is not being right. But for William, it is. So, name, date's correct. Yep. So we're going to move over residency because we don't have that added to his information, his personal page. We're going to make sure all the checkboxes are checked so that it's connected to his page and easy to find. We're going to put reason for attaching source. Same info. So I just put for reason for attaching same info, proof of death and date, birth date and place, and residency later on in life. So the reason I attach this source is the information is the same for William, and we need to have this for proof of birth date and place and where he was living later on in life. That's good to know. So we're going to attach this. And now we can do the same for his father, William. Click on the compare between the names. Go, yep, same, about the same date and place and name. So we're going to slide the residency over, make sure all the checkboxes are checked. It's already going to plug in what you typed in before. And we can say attach. Same with mother. Yep, same information. Slide that over and attach. Now here comes the part that is why you do these attached sources. So over here is, down here we have siblings. It says right here siblings, or if you had William's kids, but in this case we're doing siblings. So we can open and close for William's kids. Or open and close for siblings. So Thomas and John here are missing from William and Sarah's family. This is sad. Sarah's without her babies. She could be in the spirit world and not have her whole family sealed to her. It's so sad. So we're going to attach a Thomas and a John. So I'm going to click add. And what it's doing is it's already going through it and looking at every Thomas Warren in Family Search and going, hey, is this the Thomas Warren you're looking for? Is this one? Is this it? Is this it? Is this it? And we're going to have to figure that out. So here's a Thomas. Here's his birth date and place, which is the same as the census. But we don't have a death because the census don't list death. That's in the future. We also don't know what a spouse is in the census because, once again, that's in the future. Spouse. So we're not sure about these two things. But that could possibly be him. Next is a Thomas that's born in South Carolina. That's probably not him. This one doesn't have enough information. Ooh, this one says father is William and mother is Sarah. William's his middle name. I don't know if that would be him because that just doesn't seem right to me. And then you can keep going through each one. The only one I would say I'm more comfortable with is this Thomas. But I'm not sure if it's him. So we can actually create a new person. And click create a new person. And it's plugging in all that information that it's getting from the census and just adding it all in. Sometimes you might have to say the person is living or click the deceased button. But that's generally when you get closer to actually the person being alive or not. This case is already saying it's deceased. Thomas is deceased because, well, it said he was born over 160 years ago. 165 years ago. Which I've never heard of a person nowadays or in the last, couple thousand years who's lived to be 160 years old. So yeah, he's more than likely dead. I could put in the death information if I knew that, but I don't, because all I know is the census. So, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And then we can click create a new person, or you can go up here and say, never mind, I actually want to look at the possible duplicates again and double check this Thomas. I'm actually going to create a person because I feel more comfortable doing that. So I click create a person. And see, it's already plugged that information and connected him to William and Sarah, and other William. So once again, slide residency over and attach. Same with John Warden here. We click add and it's going through all the John Wardens in, or similar John Wardens, in Family Search. I'm scrolling through and I'm not really finding a John Warden that I'm comfortable with. If there was one, we could actually click select and it would automatically connect him to this part of the Family Search tree and go back on all the lines that it has or connect all that information it has. But I'm going to just create a new person because I don't feel comfortable with any of those Johns. Once again, add residency and attach. So now I'm going to go to Tom Warrenson's page by clicking on his name and clicking on his name again. And now it's brought up his personal page. And we're going to click here on ordinances and request ordinances. So this is why we do attaching sources, or you do a descendancy work, is you can find missing people on Family Search and put them on Family Search and request their ordinate work, which is the main reason why we do Family Search if you're Mormon, LDS, whatever you want to call it, is so that we can save our brothers and sisters. I hope you guys liked this video and it really helped you out, especially if your tree is full. You now know work you can do. If you have any questions, please comment below and I'll get back to those as soon as I can. If you have any suggestions on what I should film, please also put that in the comments below. I'd love to hear those. And thank you guys so much for watching. Please all have a beautiful week. Bye.